So Moses stretched out his staff over Egypt, and the Lord made an east wind blow across the land all that day and all that night. By morning, the wind had brought the locusts. They invaded all Egypt and settled down in every area of the country in great numbers. Never before had there been such a plague of locusts, nor will there ever be again. They covered all the ground until it was black. They devoured all that was left after the hail, everything growing in the fields and the fruit on the trees. Nothing green remained on tree or plant in all the land of Egypt. It's time to get biblical. It's time then for a Loadout Lowdown. Ahoy! I'm Captain Benzie, and this is another ARMAJET Loadout Lowdown weapon guide in association with the Fiery Tail ARMAJET team. This series of videos is weapon training for all you aspiring pilots, designed to turn you from a useless ground-hugging frag bait into an airborne threat to rival smallpox. In order for me to keep up this content, I rely on the support of my epic crew of Patreons and on YouTube ad revenue. You can help by letting any ads you see play out to the full, or by heading over to Patreon and joining my crew. That all out of the way, let's click off the safety and unleash the swarm. The Locust is a high-power plasma auto rifle that seems to have been inspired by the plasma gun in Quake 3 Arena. It's certainly strongly reminiscent of it. It stands separate from all the other auto rifles in ARMAJET that you're likely to have encountered up to this point, in that it is not a frontline weapon. Whereas weapons like the Typhoon or Black Tusk are designed to rush in and hose a target down quickly, the Locust supports a much more defensive and restrained playstyle. Some might call this a more cowardly playstyle. Of course, I like to think that it's a more refined and intelligent form of warfare. Sure, some Luddites like to rush in face first and blitz opponents down in a close-range hailstorm, but I like to think we outgrew that form of hyper-aggressive warfare when guns replaced spears and shields. That's not to say that you can't be aggressive with the Locust, far from it, but that you can be aggressive from the relative safety supplied by standing behind those short-range savages I just talked about. What I'm getting at here is that the Locust is a mid-range weapon that is perfect for covering a lane. Not only does the Locust have a decent rate of fire, but its projectiles are large balls of concentrated plasma. They are big projectiles. Fire something this large down a lane and you're likely to hit something. Fire 30-somethings this large down a lane and you might just kill it. Beyond the size of the projectiles too, the plasma slaps face like a sumo wrestler slaps thighs. That is to say, hard. Any momentum a pilot may have had is quickly lost when one of these bad boys makes contact. This makes the Locust astonishingly good in Fuel Frenzy, where a concentrated barrage over the fuel dispenser makes for one heck of an obstacle. Sure, nobody wants to rush into Black Tusk range to grab cells and get out, but with a Locust torrent, you won't even get in. Imagine trying to get the last slice of cake at a birthday party and all the other kids are throwing baseballs at you. Now, imagine that those baseballs are the size of watermelons and made from white-hot plasma. Rushing face first into that isn't just intimidating, it's stupid. That makes you a problem for the enemy team, a problem that they have to divert resources to attempt to deal with, and whilst the Locust isn't the lightest weapon in the game, it is nowhere near the heaviest either. When they come to swat you down like a bothersome fly, you just take off and relocate.
I'm going to swat down a couple of bothersome flies.
Funnier still, if you empty a bunch of plasma into them as you do so, it'll kill their momentum and let you outrange them easily. As such, think of the Locust as kind of a backwards Black Tusk. Whereas the Black Tusk is about swooping into an enemy to kill them, the Locust is about killing them and then swooping away. With a good aim, you're the perfect answer to any of those moronic face-rushing frontliners. You spot one of those close-range electro-freak thunderstorm mains rushing your team, you kill their momentum, then you kill them. That said, the Locust also has a decent rate of firepower, long range for an auto rifle, and a narrow spread, which makes it really good at hitting foes at long range. Whilst it's not a sniper rifle and it won't be replacing a Longclaw or a Leviathan anytime soon, it is useful for ripping down any filthy badger mains sitting in the top corners spamming grenades into the fray. You may only get a few shots in, but the damage and the force is usually enough to get them to pull back to safety or send them off looking for shields and health. Either way, you've dealt with the issue for now. The Locust is a fantastic mid-range zoning weapon. If you're unfamiliar with that terminology, zoning is the act of influencing your opponent's movement and limiting their activity in the arena. In the Locust's case, this is done by blocking off a lane with plasma that hurts and slows opponents down to a crawl. Nobody wants to rush through that, but it's also, just really good at killing things. This makes dealing with an enemy Locust user difficult. You need to deal with them quickly and effectively, catch them reloading, come in from cover and take them out quickly. Incendiary grenades are a great way to force them to retreat from their positions, although high power long range weaponry will, as you would imagine, do the job too. Now, on the subject of incendiary grenades, these are one of my favourite secondary weapons to use with a Locust as they add to its zoning capabilities. Cover a fuel dispenser with a torrent of Locust fire and drop an incendiary on it too. The Locust fire forces the enemy to a slower speed where they'll likely end up landing in the incendiary fire. Thus, if you don't roast them with the plasma, the flames cook them instead. Win-win. The proximity mine is also exceptionally good for this. Drop one into a cluster of fuel cells, pound them with the Locust, and cackle like a supervillain.
Why does it always do that?
Now, if you're more about the direct killiness of the Locust, I'd look at something like one of the sidearms. The Marauder or the Enforcer both work nicely with the Locust as a way of applying an extra punch of quick damage to someone. Those pesky, filthy badger spammers I mentioned earlier might just escape a few hits from a Locust, but they will flop like ragdolls if you pump a few plasma shots in, then whip out a sidearm to deal that final chunk of damage quickly. Moving on to the final part of each loadout lowdown, let's have a look at the Locust's unique skins. First up is the aptly titled Swarm. The design on the side is an accurate depiction of an actual Locust's wings, and this is, fairly obviously, what the weapon is referencing. Locusts are herbivorous winged insects that occasionally move in swarms, which can be devastating to crops. In and of themselves, they're fairly common across the globes and mostly harmless, save for a few like the milkweed locust found here in Zimbabwe, that are poisonous if eaten. Not a problem in many Western countries perhaps, but insects are eaten here. Fried locust tastes a little like chicken. Flying ants are the best though, as they taste like peanut butter. The Anubis is a shining golden skin with azure blue details reminiscent of ancient Egyptian art. Of course, in ancient Egyptian mythology, Anubis is the guardian of the dead and watches over the underworld. He's neither an evil god, which was Set, the god of death and destruction in ancient Egypt, nor does he claim the souls of the dead, setting him apart from the Western Grim Reaper. This skin reminds me a lot of the film and television series Stargate, which blended Egyptian mythology with science fiction, rather like this skin does. The Astral is a weird skin that is fairly similar to the Anubis at first glance, with the exception of the vibrant purple detailing. The art and the flavour text seem to be referencing the film Pool, where a group of tourists end up travelling around with an escaped alien called, you guessed it, Pool, especially referencing certain scenes that involve a certain herb, shall we say? Of course, the skin could just be a reference to little green spacemen armed with ray guns. I could be reading too much into this one, you know? The Hellbender is an incredible looking legendary skin with an unusual blend of references behind it. The fiery look and kill card artwork are strongly reminiscent of hellish warlocks and sorcerers, but the kill card art is actually very reminiscent of a character from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
There are some who call me Tim.
And a Hellbender? It's actually a type of salamander, an amphibious reptile-like creature. Despite its horrifying name, the Hellbender is actually completely harmless to humans. Despite the animal namesake, the Hellbender is definitely one of the coolest looking skins in ARMAJET. That just about wraps things up for this Loadout Lowdown. If you found this informative or at least a teensy bit enjoyable, please slap that thumbs up button and leave me a comment down below. This channel is pumping out ARMAJET content frequently, so if you want to see more, give that subscribe button a click and ding the notification bell. Happy sailing, and see you in the arena!